Okay, am I rolling? I hope so. I'm going to do my little news update thing. Usually, when I do these, I tend to like to play The World's Hardest Game 3 while I talk. But right now, I have to have different priorities because I'm I'm supposed to be working on. Uh, can I? Oh, it's all. I forgot this is like all mouse. Um, Bionicle Attic Media because this is the one game that's holding me back from completing what I would presume is what I would guess I would call I keep forgetting about the stinking projectiles. Um, Bionicle Games Review episode whatever the next one's supposed to be. Odds and ends from 2001 to 2005. It's what I said at the end of Rebuild I would do next, and it's not even like sitting around on my computer in the works or anything. I literally just have not recorded anything on it yet because I've been trying to figure out a way to get through the entirety of Attic Media, if it has an entirety. Oh, I forgot. I want to use arrow keys on this for some reason. It's all mouse. Come on, Tagilitor, all mouse. The farthest I've gotten to was the exposition. Also, one of the problems with Attic Media is that if you click outside of it, it'll drop off. Although do have an OBS window open, so that helps me a bit. Although I need to work on trying to close off. I should have closed the file explorer behind it or minimized it. I'll do that before my next run. The fourth boss. The boss that goes kind of in the spiraling motion. But I've not made it past that fourth boss yet. I presume the rule is going to follow the rule of sixths. The rule of six, which Bionicle games almost always follow. Come on. Ah, I missed it. Oh, I'm toast. I am toasty-doed. I am so toast. Ah. I need to get rid of that file explorer. Got rid of it. Okay. That way I don't close the game when I click out of it. Okay, just go. I forgot the pattern. I've not done this in a long time, so I'm klutzing through it. I'm also trying to talk at the same time. So I feel there's going to be 6 stages to it. And I'm just trying to hit. And that's going to be terrible because I can't even get through the 4th stage. Anyway, so while I'm doing my update, I'm going to do basically a working session on this. I have not yet figured out how to get through that second pass of this boss across the front of the screen without losing at least 1 whole health. It's just problematic in that way. So, what is actually the news? So, hope you probably just to put everything that's been going on the YouTube channel in succinct form. To be succinct, right now I'm in the process of uploading 3 or 4. There's a 4th one's going to come pretty soon. Series is. So, actually, like maybe a 5th one will come really soon. Oh, I got net error, whatever that means. So, just kind of dodge. And this one I dodge left. Pretty simple. You do, if you want to maximize your points, you want to shoot them because you get points for taking them out. But you don't get any. If you just want to not lose as little health as possible, you just ignore them as much as you can. So just kind of go to the right. Go to the right. So remember 11 and the Ever 17 Xbox remake. That's old footage from potentially late 2022, early 2023. And that was back in the era where I would tend to record a whole bunch of things in batches and then upload them in batches, and then publish them at some contrived schedule that was completely unnecessary, because I could publish them all at once if I wanted to. Afterward, just because my home internet was so slow that it's practically impossible to actually upload them like at a timeline which I would like, one video at a time at my convenience. I'd have to like do something like find some time after work at work or something and then upload them all at once. And so you get, and I presume, although there are YouTubers that do it like this, that people generally do not prefer that format, because I don't get to see their comments after my first recording, say before I make the second recording. So you can't really interact with it. Now that is convenient for me doing the Let's Play, if per se, commenters like to do put spoilers in the comments, which they often do. But anyway, so it was back in that. Now, since then, my internet has gotten faster, so I have less of that issue. But that was the case then, and so those are all old footage from a long time ago. Remember 11 turned out really well. I really liked how that footage came out. The Ever 17 Xbox remake, no, I do not like how that footage came out. And that's why I stop very soon. Right now, 10 parts are uploaded, and there's only an 11th part. And I say, okay, I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to maybe stop recording footage on this until I learn Japanese better. So that one doesn't go very far. And then in the space, like the space where I would ordinarily upload episodes of the Ever 17 Xbox, I'm going to start uploading my old footage of the AI the Somnium Files. The second game is called AI the Somnium Files, the Nirvana Initiative. And the background of that maybe requires some discussion of cancer. And so this is going to eventually turn into what I might call a YouTube cancer video. Because it's like one of those stereotypical videos that like each YouTuber, like in order to be a YouTuber, like makes once in their, I wouldn't say career, because not everybody makes a career out of it, but in their stint as being a YouTuber, like one of them is a YouTuber apology video, right? The other is a YouTuber cancer video. So I'll eventually start talking about cancer as this thing progresses. And then, so now in contrast to those two series where or three series where I've recorded everything beforehand, I've been uploading me doing SDRA, or Super Danganronpa Another, which is a Danganronpa fan game made by someone in Korea who goes by the username on the internet Linju, and that is not pre-recorded. I am actually uploading those as I record them. I had this intention to upload 2 of the Ever 17 Xbox remake and 2 of Remember 11 each week, in sort of this whole kind of Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday kind of format. And although I've been able to, on average, get that many out a week, I have not been able to keep a consistent schedule and actually like do any sort of Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday like format, as you may have noticed. And that is a general theme throughout everything going on in my entire life right now. I cannot keep up with any sort of disciplined or consistent anything, for unknown and very mysterious, bizarre reasons. But if you're confused about that, just to making sure everything is clear to the people who are like doing comments and stuff, that Ever 17 Xbox, Remember 11, AI the Somnifiers, the Nava Initiative. It's all been recorded a long time ago. I won't see your comment on the first one before we're uploading the second one, for example. But SDRA, yes, I will see your comments on the previous one before I upload the next one. Oh. You have to enter a nickname. And the reason why there might be actually 5 is because I just recorded the first episode of Stray yesterday. Just could be all kinds of junk. Cool. Now, let's talk about Japanese. So, the main issue, the main obstacle in actually completing the Xbox remake of Ever 17 in a way that is actually watchable as Let's Play footage is a language barrier. Generally, like if I don't know Japanese, I'm going to be using the OCR to go through the whole thing, and that creates a lot of time delay between each line of dialogue, a lot of foully done translations due to the OCR misgrabbing the characters, and the difficulty of machine translators accurately translating the meaning of a line of Japanese dialogue in context without the context. And it could create some very funny things. And some people might find that funny and entertaining. Some people might find that just horrible. I like it to be at least somewhat, like, watchable for everybody. And so I stopped at part 11, which would be the end of a certain structural category in the game, which I'm not going to say here because I don't want to get spoilers for just random games that I happen to be playing that are leave that to the Let's Play of the game itself. So in order to be able to successfully read these games that are written in Japanese that I would like to be able to read, these include the Xbox remake of Ever 17, 12 Riven, and that's what I have on the top of my head right now. Oh, Code 18. I forgot about Code 18. I should put some effort in actually be able to understand written Japanese. Now, how well you need to understand written Japanese to read a visual novel like those is actually extremely well. It's very ambitious. And at one point, I thought I was going to try to understand and learn Korean, try to understand Korean, and that worked out horribly. So there isn't very much precedent to really have any sort of faith in me to be able to understand Japanese in any sort of like way that makes sense. But what I decided to do was sign up for a course at my local university, which also just happens to be my quote-unquote alma mater. That's where I graduated from. And go through their sequence of Japanese courses because the university environment is an environment that I have been historically very successful in learning through and just work my way. It's kind of expensive. It's over $300 a course. But I really want to be able to read this stuff. So I'm going about it that way. And I really wouldn't receive too much judgment for that because learning a second language is a respectable ambition in 21st century society. Script error, yes. Well, it crashed, I gotta reload it. So I'm going for trying to learn Japanese that way. And it is very slow, and the course material or curricula for these kinds of courses is generally not tailored with priority to reading novels, or actually even reading in general. It's prioritized towards if you were to go to Japan for either business reasons or academic reasons, be able to communicate with the people there in like basic needs, like shopping or ordering food or asking what time it is or how to get someplace. Basic, how to greet people. Now, the commonly used phrases are actually very useful for novels because they show up actually a lot in the novels. Japanese people actually do commonly use their commonly used phrases. I got clicked out. I ended up getting clicked out. That's what happened there. If you wonder like why I suddenly failed in the game. Because I forgot to minimize my file explorer after launching the game. That always gets me. So to get actually to the advanced vocabulary you need to actually read a novel with, it's pretty tough. Yes, I'm doing the Duolingo. Yes, my experience with Duolingo is that it's not very conducive to get to retaining the vocabulary very well. But I'm doing it anyway. And also the vocabulary that you learn in a Duolingo course is somewhat remote from the type of vocabulary that you need to know if you were to read a novel. Again, it's more like getting around in the country sort of vocabulary. Basic phrases which you would find in a basic phrase book sort of ideas. But is what it is. And that's my best shot. And then, hopefully, that will lay some sort of foundation, which will then be able to build on using some sort of immersive technique with the visual novels I do have. And I guess that's what I would talk about next. So, as you may know if you've been following Spike Chunsoft, like, visual novel scene, is that, I guess it's Isotaka. I don't remember his name exactly. Kodaka. Kodaka is his family name. The scenario writer for Danganronpa, as part of his ambition, it's still published, I think, by Spike Chunsoft, but it's produced by his Kodaka's own new company, Tokyo Games. Came out with a Switch exclusive visual novel called Detective Files Rain Code, I believe. And of course, it's not a Danganronpa game. It's its own series of game. It's its own game. And, but, given that it's written by Kodaka, and it is called a Detective Files, is part of its name, I presume that it's also like whodunits. Like, you're trying to figure out who committed some crime. And given that that's my favorite kind of story and my favorite kind of game to play, I would go, okay, I would like to play this. And I'd also like to record it so like I could say things like, this is who I guess is going to be the culprit, whatever. And then, see if it's correct and, post it on the internet and so on. That being said, Kodaka specifically doesn't like people posting footage of anything past Chapter 4. I'm pretty sure that every YouTuber is going to ignore that, but I think Nico B just started, so I don't know if he's going to ignore that or not. If you go on Tokyo Game's website, it'll explicitly say that. It's like, go ahead and make Let's Plays, but please, we beg you, don't post footage past Chapter 4. So I am aware of that. But the biggest inconvenience about this game, which I have already mentioned in passing, is that it's exclusive for the Switch. So, in order to play it, you need a Switch. And you might say, okay, that greatly increases the cost of the game, right? Because not only do you have to buy the game, you also have to buy the platform on which you need to play the game. And it seems silly, it defeats the point of a platform, if you buy a platform to only play one game on it. As at the time, I didn't know of any other games that I would like to play on Switch. And because I record pretty much every game I play, I don't really have the whole, motivation for the handheld doesn't really apply to me. So, the whole point of buying a Switch, besides Switch exclusives, the whole draw of the Switch is its handheld nature and its portability, right? You can, just similar to, the old Game Boy and the DS, that's what it replaces. You can play it on the airplane and so on, right? But since I'm always recording things, I would always have my Switch hooked up to a capture card, always have a PC encoding it that would be pretty darn powerful, and always be sitting at my desk playing my Switch anyway. So not only would there be only one game for Switch that I'd bother playing, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die so hard. the draw of that particular format, of that way of playing games, just doesn't apply. So, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to buy a Switch, and I would be buying a Switch just for this one. Yeah, it's just the Switch, you know what I mean. So anyway, put that aside for now. I decided, okay, maybe I won't play it for now, and maybe deep in the future, it'll come out on PC. Because you may recall that Persona 5, I think originally was or at least Persona 5 Royale, the Royale version of Persona 5. By the way, I will never actually play Persona 5 on recording because it's boring. If you've seen my Let's Plays of Maze of Shadows, you'll know how much I am not very amused by turn-based combat. But anyway, it used to be a PlayStation exclusive, I believe, and then eventually it came to Steam. So things that are exclusive sometimes do eventually come to PC if you're just patient enough, right? So I decided, okay, I will just let this go. I won't play Kodaka's new game right away, and we'll see what happens. But that goes back to, but that development has more to it, because that goes back to my whole effort about learning Japanese, right? If you want to learn Japanese and learn Japanese vocabulary as is most useful for reading visual novels, you'd like a lot of visual novels, Japanese visual novels, by which to, read, right? And maybe some to do that are less serious and, you're less serious about doing really well on, to do as practice for your main events. And one big set of Japanese visual novels that I know were only released in Japanese and were never translated to English via fan translation or otherwise is a series that was started by KID, the same company that made the Infinity series, called Memories Off. And I first took note of Memories Off because I was looking up Kotaro Uchikoshi's discography, and he is one of the writers on the team for the first two Memories Off games. And so the first game, truly, that Uchikoshi contributed to writing-wise, was not actually Never 7, as you might be mistaken was the case. It was Memories Off. Now, I read part of the Wikipedia page for Memories Off. I managed to completely skip the whole plot section, and also managed to completely skip spoilers, because the Wikipedia page doesn't necessarily always reserve its spoilers for the plot subsection. Sometimes they put spoilers on the very first line of the page, but luckily I managed to not get spoiled. But I did read on there that it seems like there wasn't necessarily a scenario writer for Memories Off, or if it wasn't Uchikoshi. Uchikoshi was just someone on the team who just wrote like a piece of it. He wrote one particular character's route. Worked a little bit on a different character's route. So so it's not like the first game that he was the scenario writer for and was in charge of writing was Never 7, but he did write significant chunks of Memories Off. So I was like, okay, if I want to go through all of his discography, this isn't like, as long as I don't care that it's everything that he was a scenario writer on, particularly. Let me get this right. If I want to do like more than just what he was a scenario writer on, and want to do like everything he wrote, even pieces of, then I would include Memories Off. And Memories Off although Memories Off is not really my like favorite type of game. It's not like what I specialize in. It's not there's probably some mystery component. I don't know. I didn't get spoiled. It's not like a murder, like a crime mystery or mystery sort of game or death game. It's basically just the stereotypical set in high school branching timeline where each timeline is focused on a girl dating sim-like structured game. So it makes good practice. But I had this problem, which if you've watched to the end of my my playlist on Never 7, you might be very familiar with, and that is, well, the most convenient way, the way I like to play all my games is on PC, and those games of that era, in Japan on PC are super, like, copies of them are super rare, and you can't really get your hands on them. And so they came out for other sort of it's more common that you find them for like the PSP or the Dreamcast, and you get that complication of, do I have to try to emulate this? And can I just rip an image of a Dreamcast disc and it'll just work in an emulator? Like, it gets complicated, right? Now, that's kind of my jam in a way, playing games that are hard to figure out how to play, but given the tools I have. But I noticed that the entire series of Memories Off, which it has now grown to 7 games because Cyberfront and Mages, after they bought Kids or KID's intellectual property, continued the series, was released in modern times, re-released in these collection volumes by Mages for the Switch. And so I was like, wait, I can get all 7 all at once by just buying 2 games for the Switch? So I had to look up, okay, is the Switch region locked? Because that could bite me, right? Region locked Switch? And the answer is, it is in a way, but not severely. So you have to have if you have a Switch account, because you're doing online stuff with your Switch, you have to have a separate account for each region. But it's not too bad. You can make a separate account from each region, and the Memories Off games don't have online components to them, so for me it doesn't matter. So I could just use one Switch of United States region to do my stuff with, and that's all I need. So, cool. Oh, I got clicked out again. Okay. So I can use one singular Switch to play Kodaka's new game, Detective Files Rain Code, as well as, I missed that dodge. As well as Memories Off. And I have this big collection of Japanese visual novel text and Memories Off that I can use to try to learn Japanese by immersion. And I gotta post I think all of that on my YouTube channel when I do it. Although it isn't going to be the most watchable footage because I'm going to be like in the learning process as I'm doing it, and I'm going to be using the OCR to, figure out stuff I can't understand as I'm reading through. So with that, and that other revelation of, I have multiple uses for the Switch now, I went out and I bought a Switch. I didn't actually go out to buy a Switch, I just ordered it off Amazon. I didn't actually go to a Best Buy or something to buy the Switch. But I have a Switch now, and so that means, and I bought Kodaka's new game, so that's not immediately going to come out, but that's now on my back burner, is Memories Off and Kodaka's new game. So if you're not familiar with Memories Off, the first, I think, 5 games or something were made by KID. The famous writer Kotaro Uchikoshi only contributed to the first 2, and then Mages bought it, and then they bought the intellectual property. There were some complications and some moving around, and then they made 2 more games under their umbrella. So there's actually 7 total, written by different authors over time, and it's basically just the stereotypical generic high school set dating sim, and that's why you can have multiple writers working on it. Sweet. There's like mainline games, and then there's like spin-offs of each individual game. I don't think I've gotten any of the spin-offs in my collection for the Switch. I think it's just the mainline themselves. So Memories Off Pure, the sequel for Memories Off, which was included with the Dreamcast version of the first game, is probably not in the collection if I were to guess. But I don't know for certain. We'll just go through the collection proper first. Getting the extra spin-off-y stuff is going to be very difficult because a lot of those came out for very specific obsolete platforms. Okay, so that's coming. That's some game news, and so that adds to my queue of games that I want to get to. Detective Files Rain Code. So just to kind of like list out what the whole queue is, I have currently need to finish publishing. I think they're all uploaded. publishing Remember 11. I have one more episode to publish for the Ever-17 Xbox remake right now. And then after I've spent some effort trying to learn Japanese, we'll come back to the Ever-17 Xbox remake in the future. Don't know how far in the future that will be, but I eventually will come back to it. It's kind of a far in the queue. I would like to finish recording, because I haven't finished recording yet, uploading and publishing SDRA, or Super Danganronpa Another, by Linju. I still plan on completing the free time events for Danganronpa Blowback. I haven't given up on doing that, so those I may eventually doing the last 2, I believe, recordings of that I'll have to do in order to complete those. I'm going to have to upload and publish my Let's Play of AI the Somnium Files, the Nirvana Initiative. So that's I haven't actually technically finished the game, actually. There are some eyeballs I haven't found yet, but I've at least finished all of the story of it. So most of what matters I've actually finished recording, and then I have not uploaded any of that yet. So I have to get it all uploaded and then, of course, published after uploading. Missed that star. After that, I like to get the odds and ends, Bionicle Games Review odds and ends 2001 to 2005 done, which would require me to actually get a good performance, as I feel, in Bionicle Attic Media. I may skip over this and come back to it later, do them out of order, take a break and do something like 2006 games, or do Matoran Adventures, I believe it's. No, it's not Matoran Adventures. It's whatever that GBA game. Matoran Adventures, I believe, is the first GBA game. The really bad GBA game. I forgot what it's called. No, Quest for the Tales. No, it is called Matoran Adventures. Never mind. Let's do one of those as opposed to Odds and Ends 2001 to 2005. But one of those is going to come, and then after that, I'm going to go after Kodaka's new game, which is Detective Files Rain Code. SDRA 2, and then keep going through all the various Danganronpa fan games that are complete or have been abandoned. I have a lot of them saved on my computer. But the highest priority of those, of course, would be SDRA 2, when the ending of... I've been following up and checking up on this regularly, of Your Turn to Die comes out, that one. Finished recording and uploading Stray. I haven't done recording. I don't record only one episode of that. Memories Off, and the process of learning Japanese as I go through Memories Off, all 7. Then after I've sufficiently learned Japanese, Ever-17 Xbox remake, Code 18, 12 Ribbon. And then all the rest of the Bionicle Games reviews. Whatever that G2 game, Bionicle game was, I forgot what it's like the Legend, I forgot what it's called. So one where you click on spiders and slap them, basically. Glatorian Arena 3, maybe try to get the webcam game working, where you throw Thornax spikes at a target from Bionicle 2009. And I think when that's all done, I'll have at least something up for every single Bionicle game that was released. Some of them my performances weren't that good on, like a lot of those 2008 games but at least I'll have something, and I'll probably be satisfied and probably be done at that point. So, yeah, there's a lot. And then that doesn't include some other classics, like maybe Crisis. Anyway, and Dark Souls and things like that. So a lot of games definitely have not yet ran out of games. Okay, so now that I'm done talking about games and stuff, this will transition over into what I will call a my YouTuber cancer video. And I'll probably denote this using the chapters feature in YouTube. So back in March of this year, you may have recalled a community post that I made where I said I'll be out for a while because I have to, I just got a piece of my colon taken out of me. So this is kind of TMI, and to some people this is kind of like none of the public's business, but I don't really have I don't really keep secrets, and so I'm just going to say this because I just kind of want to. It might be fun and interesting. You might have interest in this, I don't know. So this is what happened to me. In January and February of 2023, earlier this year, the year I'm recording this, I started to get some very unusual and just kind of odd abdominal pain. So just because this is kind of random context, it doesn't matter. It's just purely context for context's sake, and actually doesn't clarify the issue very much. At the beginning of January of 2023, I went to Tucson, Arizona, which, nothing private about that, because I went to something called the Meg Quigley Bassoon Convention, which was held this year at the University of Arizona in Tucson, which means that if I were to say I went there, you know where I went. Because I like to play bassoon. I haven't been doing very well practicing it lately due to surgeries and stuff, but and some other very bizarre, mysterious problems, but I do like bassoon. So I went there, and you listen to lectures about techniques of playing the bassoon, as well as listen to people who are very good, play pieces on the bassoon. There's a lot of performance, a lot of master classes. You get to buy stuff. Vendors show up and you can buy stuff. I bought like a new reed case and a new shoulder harness, and got to talk to Fox and ask him questions about contrabassoons. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, I come back. I eat Taco Bell for the second time in my life, and the first time I really remember it. On the drive back from Tucson, I drove down there. I like driving long distances. It's something I like doing. I just like. Some people don't, but I like just putting on the cruise control in my car and just taking a day, just kind of down very straight and flat freeways. I'm very American in that sense. I came back. I caught a cold of some kind while I was there, got over the cold, and after I got over the cold, I was suddenly having these weird abdominal pains. So they tended to happen most of the time around 10 or 11 a.m., and they were happening almost every single day. So we all get stomach aches, right, every once in a while, because we all get gas. Gas gets trapped a certain place in your bowels, and we get a little tummy ache, and it goes away. But I was having this tummy ache like every single day around 10 or 11 a.m. And it wasn't just happening at the morning. Sometimes it was happening in afternoons too. It was just it was more consistently happening in the morning than happening in the afternoon. And it was really strange just because it was happening every day. So eventually, one Tuesday, I was sitting there at work in the office at my desk, and I was having this abdominal pain so bad that I couldn't focus on my work. I just couldn't do my work. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to like say I'm sick. Like I'm gonna have to like tell my boss that I couldn't work today because it's hurt so bad, right? And eventually I did. But at that point, I made an appointment with my doctor. And the doctor, I think, the appointment was on Valentine's Day. And I forget when Valentine's Day is because, I'm single. But February 14th, is that right? I'm just going to Google it right now. Yes, I honestly do not have memorized when Valentine's Day is. You might think I'm a weirdo for that, but it's true. But I do remember that that's when, yeah, it's February 14th. Okay. I guess my guess was right. That's when my appointment with my doctor was. Well, to discuss with him this abdominal pain. So this pain is kind of weird. So it basically kind of went around the outside of my abdomen, kind of like where my colon travels. And it would happen at various parts of my colon, or at least a part of my body where my colon was. And it would seem to kind of not really be in one specific place. As I would hurt, it would travel around and kind of go around my abdomen if I were to look down on it, going clockwise. If it was someone else looking at me, it would be like counterclockwise. So it kind of like move with the direction in which my colon goes. And it wasn't exactly like a gas kind of pain. It was more severe and more like potent. I like to say the word sharp, but sharp tends to imply acuteness. But it was still more like an ache. But it was more sharp than like a typical gas, stomach ache would be. And it was worse in intensity than a typical gas stomach ache would be. And it just kind of would travel around, like indiscriminately around my abdomen. Sometimes it would be down low where you'd think maybe it would be my appendix, but it wasn't there all the time. Anyway, it was kind of a strange pattern. So that one Tuesday when I made that appointment, which was about a week before the appointment actually was, it was only about 10 minutes into the episode when I made that appointment. But after I made that appointment, it was like 4 hours straight of constant abdominal pain. So I go in to see my doctor. And my doctor thinks, you went to Tucson, right? Did you eat out in Tucson? And I said, yes, actually every single day I did. Like, there would be food that would be carried in as part of the conference, or for lunch I'd eat like some Chick-fil-A or Panda Express or Chipotle or something like that. Basically every day I was there. I didn't go to like Holes in the Wall, although Holes in the Wall typically have better tasting food. I went to chains. There we go. My jump seemed to be not working. But yeah, I ate out. And he thought, well, there is a parasite. I forgot what it's called. It has a very interesting name. That you can get that can cause GERD when you previously didn't have it. Which is when you have like too much acid in your stomach. Your stomach is too acidic. And so the food coming out of the sphincter at the bottom of your stomach comes out too acidic. And it can cause, pain in your bowels downstream from your stomach. And that might be what's happening here. So I'm going to, it isn't really a prescription because it's, over the counter. I'm going to recommend you take some antacids, some Pepcid, or at least a generic, form of Pepcid, for a couple weeks. And we'll see if that clears it up, if the pain decreases. So I bought some Pepcid, and I took some Pepcid. And at first, it seemed like, the pain didn't immediately go away, but it seemed like it was getting milder, it was less bad, less severe pain, less severe symptoms. And so a week after I started, about a week and a half, I started taking this Pepcid. One Saturday, I went through that entire Saturday with no abdominal pain throughout the entire Saturday. And, I went and, went car shopping, actually. I was going to buy a new car as, like, an adventure mobile, where I have to go camping and stuff. Or, sometimes you have to deal with low-quality roads and carrying around a lot of gear and stuff like that, right? So, and then the Sunday after that, this is Sunday before, like, March 3rd, which is when I had the surgery. Still no abdominal pain, still fine, still good. The Monday after that, this is at the end of February, so we're looking at the end of February here. That Monday, all day, pain. And all of my poops were like a little, like, pellets of poop in about a tablespoon or so of blood all day. So I thought I was going away, and then suddenly, poop and blood. It's like, okay, well, maybe whatever obstruction is going on, whatever problem I'm having with my bowel here, it'll get kind of flushed out or sort of work itself out over time. So I get super concerned about that. Tuesday, pain. All day, poop and blood. Still wasn't too concerned. Wednesday, that morning, poop and blood. Well, getting a little concerned, but still not that concerned. It'll pass. Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday evening, the pain went away, and I actually had a normal poop that was reasonable size and didn't have any blood in it. Okay, this is interesting. I guess the whole condition is past now. It's worked its way out now. That Thursday morning, wake up, pain, poop, blood. And this is when suddenly my mindset changed. Because it's like, I thought the condition had passed, and it hadn't. Suddenly, I started to think, intuitively right now, I probably will not pass. This is bad. So I call up my HMO, and I ask the nurse that you call in the call center, hey, these are my symptoms. And what do I do? And she says, I recommend you go to the emergency room. It's like, okay. So then what do I call next? My mom. I call up my mom and said, hey, I have this medical problem, and you have more life experience than me and more familiarity with medical problems. What do I do? And she said, call your doctor. So I can't find a phone number for my doctor, so I send him a message. It would take a while to get that message, for that message to go through, so I don't really get a reply right away. Just as a spoiler, what did he reply with when he finally replied? After I sent a message to try my symptoms, it was go to the emergency room. But by the time I actually saw his reply, I was already in the emergency room waiting room, and I replied, yeah, I'm there now. So that didn't really contribute to the decision of going to the emergency room, but that's what he said. And then because I have more of an open office, I had a coworker that overheard my conversations, and he said, and I brought it up with him. It's like, yeah, sorry for having this personal stuff, kind of having to overhear it. And he's like, yeah, he thought maybe go to urgent care if you don't want to go to the emergency room, because I don't want to go in there and wait around, possibly get a big bill, right? I mean, I have insurance, but you just have to pay some out of pocket. You have some copay, right? My copays are actually kind of big, so I don't have co-insurance or a deductible, but I still have to do copays, and my copays are kind of big. So he said, well, why don't you go to urgent care? That's somewhere in between, right? And I thought, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll go to urgent care, because this is pretty severe. I need to do something about this, but I don't want to go to the emergency room. So I go to urgent care, and basically they said, for your symptoms, you're going to need blood work. And our blood machine is broken. So we recommend you go to the emergency room. And at this point, there was this big decision I had to make, because I, for some reason, really didn't want to go to the emergency room. And so I'm sitting in my car in the parking lot of urgent care, And I'm just like, what do I do? Right, it's like this like 50-50 shot, complete indecision as to whether I should go to the emergency room or not. This is on this Thursday. I think it was like March 2nd, if I recall correctly. And I didn't even really like decide. It was just like, I just kind of like started the car, started driving, and my hands and feet just moved to kind of eventually just kind of move me to the emergency room. I just kind of found myself walking into the emergency room. And I go to the emergency room. They do bloods. Bloods are normal. They do a little interview. They stick a thing up my butt to check for blood in the abdominal cavity. It's positive. They do a CT without contrast. They just do a quick one. And they find something on the CT. And this is what they tell me. You have what we call an intussusception. Say that 5 times quickly. Intussusception, 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 intussusception. Which is when your colon is telescoped in on itself. And this is something that's very common with children, but not so much for people like me who are in their late 20s. So, but you have it, and because you're in your late 20s, it's kind of unusual. There's probably a lead point, so you probably have some sort of like mass or something in there, like maybe a lipoma or something, that maybe catch like the like undulating motion that your colon does caught up on, and it's kind of sucked the colon in on itself like that. And it's on the descending part of your colon, which would be like on the left side of your body. And if I could recall back to like some of my abdominal pain, yes, some of it was on the left side of my body, but it was actually all over my whole colon. And the emergency room nurse said that, yeah, that's the case because, you plugged up the telescoping in on itself, that plugged your colon up. So, you had this backup of colon, which is probably stretching your backup of stool in your colon, which is probably stretching your colon all the way back up, all the way up. So that's why you had, pain all over your colon. But the intussusception is on the descending side on your left. So we might have to transfer you to another hospital. This might be like a hospital associated with your HMO because we are like a partner with your HMO, but we are not a facility that's exactly there, right? And they'll do a procedure. There'll probably be something like stick some tool up your anus, and it'll be like this inflatable thing that will inflate inside and like pop out your colon and pop out the telescoped in thing. Get it shaped right. Okay. So, I was waiting around for them to do that. Sounds good. So, like, move me an ambulance, like, without the flashers, right? Like a non-emergency ambulance to another hospital. It's like, oh, it's going to be expensive, but whatever. This is making me poop blood. It's got my colon all clogged up. It's really bad. I need to get it fixed really quickly. It'll kill me, right? Eventually, in some terrible, painful way. So, well, it turns out that's not how it works. A surgeon from my HMO was actually on call. And they call him in. He was actually going to do surgery at the hospital right there. But he said, when he showed up, that no, with adults, first of all, he asked me if I had a family history of colon cancer. Because he, similar to how the nurse thought that there was going to be some sort of lead point, which means that there was probably a mass in my colon that would have caused it to intussuscept, right? But they didn't see any mass on the CT for some reason. But also said that in adults, like me, the success rate for fixing an intussusception by means of popping it out is extremely low. And so we're just not going to bother with that. We're just going to cut you open, do an open surgery. We're just going to cut you open, and we're going to cut out and remove that part of your colon. And I was like, well, I'd really like to, try to, like, do some like maybe get a second opinion on this, or maybe like do some research, or like if you say the success rate is really low, like I'd like to see those studies. You know what I mean? But I didn't want to. For some reason, I guess I was too much of a nice guy. I didn't want to bother the health system so much. I decided, I'll just trust him. And it turned out to be, in the end, the right thing to do because I had a tumor that they incidentally found, quote unquote, when they went in to take out that piece of colon. And so if they weren't going in there to take out something, they wouldn't have taken out that tumor. So yes, it was definitely the right thing to do to let them just go in there and just take that piece of my colon out. Now, so I had to spend the night. It wasn't a super emergency, so they didn't want to do it till the next morning. So I had to spend the entire doing it. They were waiting until the next morning. Yeah, first of all, because it's not like an extreme emergency, but also because they wanted to do some bowel prep on me. So I had to spend the entire night in the emergency room section of the hospital, and for some reason, even though just for some sort of I don't know, it's logistics, some legal reasons, when you're in the hospital, they have to put the blood pressure cuff on you, and it measures your blood pressure every every few minutes, and your heart rate clamp thing, and they put probes on your chest all night, even though I wasn't in danger of dying in any in a reasonable time frame. And it's very noisy, and there's other patients being moved around, and they're in really bad shape, and they're smelling. It's very difficult to sleep in the emergency room that emergency room section. And also nurses would sometimes use the caps. They wouldn't ever actually leave sharps on the floor, but they sometimes use the caps on the floor. I'm just come on. Sort of a goofy thing that happened is the night shift nurse that was assigned to me felt like that she was obligated to get the IV line that they would use, for the everything that would happen during and after the surgery. They want an IV in you so that they can do the hydration, do pain medication after the surgery, sometimes for sedation. However, I was given general, but maybe they use it for that too. But so she thought that the day shift would expect me, after I've been in that emergency room for so long, to already have the IV in by the time the day shift came along. So at the end of her shift, she walks in and is I need to get an IV in you because I'll get chewed out maybe if I don't. And I don't think this is really true. The day shift people are chill. They can put the IV in. I don't know if this is really a thing that really she was really obligated to do. But she, it's I have to get the IV in you. So she goes for it. And I'm tired of bioclimatic media, so I'll probably just leave it alone and talk. She tries to put it in my left arm first. But she misses the vein. And she tries to fish around in there, trying to get it in that vein, and she still can't get it. It's phooey. So she tries another place on my left arm. And she misses the vein again. And she's phooey. And then she's okay, fine, we're not going to get you today. And walks away. Then in a few minutes, she changes her mind and walks back in. She says, will you let me try again? I said, yeah, sure. Because I can empathize with her, right? I understand this kind of situation. She's the end of her shift. She's tired. She's feeling pressure, right? I don't want people to feel pressure. I don't want to feel people get fear of being chewed out. I want her day to end well. So I want to give her a chance to get an IV in me. So I let her get do a third try. And she gets it in her third try. Unfortunately, it was in my right arm. And also, unfortunately, it was in the crux of my elbow. So it would make it so that if I were to bend my elbow, it would bend that little IV rubber piece that goes into your vein, which would kink off the IV, which would make the IV, when it which would indicate, like, so since there's the machinery that would to pick up on that after the surgery, and notice that the juices aren't flowing in the IV, and it would make beeping noises annoyingly. So I couldn't bend my right arm throughout my entire hospital stay because of the IV placement. And then after when you put it in the IV, right, you get blood return, and then what you do is you take some saline and you push the blood back in, right? So all you see, so you don't see red on like the line coming immediately out of the IV, and then you cap it off. After she did that, she just dropped the syringe of saline on the floor of the room. I told her when she was leaving, you dropped your saline on the floor. But I don't really know if she was necessarily a bad nurse. I think it's just that maybe she had a bad day, and it was the end of her shift, and it was a grave shift, and she was tired. But nursing is hard. If you want to be a nurse, it's hard. So, anyway, I go in, they take out a piece of my colon, they find a tumor in there, and these are some huge, horrible stats. So, the tumor was 4 centimeters actually, 3 centimeters translucently. It elevates 3 centimeters out of the mucosa. So it's like an ellipsoid that was 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters by 4 centimeters. And it appears to be completely obstruct the lumen. And what that means is it completely plugged up my colon. The poop couldn't get through there. The undulating motion of the colon tried to get the poop through there, made it so that the upstream of my colon fell down over top of the downstream, making the intussusception occur. There was necrotic tissue inside the tumor, so there's like dead cells inside. And there's also tumor budding, where it had like these little satellite tumors around it. Which is pretty crazy. So they took out a whole bunch of, quite a bit of my colon, because they wanted to make sure they got enough margin around it, and they got enough lymph nodes to do good testing. And that's kind of one of those things where it's like, the scariest part of getting a surgery done is not like the pain. The worst thing about a surgery is the whole denial of autonomy. You're not actually being denied your autonomy. You're signing consent, but it's like what you're consenting to is to be in the most helpless situation you could possibly put yourself as a human in, where you're giving people full control over like your body with like naked in a room where you don't even you can't even have experience. You don't even dare to give consent to each thing they do. You're completely absent. It's like, the vulnerability is what I have to say. So when a surgeon does something just a little bit, like that's to his discretion based on like what he observes when he opens you up, you can like make you a little angry, because that's the most like thing to your like the thing that's most played to your fears is the whole like I didn't have control in that situation, and I was giving myself over entirely to the surgeon. It had this incredible trust, and any sort of slight potentially might be a betrayal of that trust. It's like right. But it turned out to be a good thing to do objectively. That he took out extra colon. So, and it was only like 10% of my colon in total. I'm trying to find on here exactly how much it is. I think it was like 11 centimeters of colon total. And with that, 25 lymph nodes. One of those 25 lymph nodes that was taken out of my colon contained cancer. It wasn't just like one cell, it was like visually so. It looked necrotic. How advanced the tumor was is what they call T3, which basically, that's as bad as the tumor passes through the smooth muscle that lines the colon, but doesn't pass through the outer layer of the colon, which we call the serosa. If it passes through that, we call it a T4. And because it was only one lymph node that had cancer cells in it, we call that N1A. So it's a T3 N1A adrenocarcinoma, which just basically means cancer of that mucosal tissue on the inside of the colon, in the colon. If you like the whole stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 classification, they would call that a stage 3 cancer because if it travels to a lymph node, it is automatically stage 3. To get a stage 2 cancer, the cancer has to penetrate the outer wall of the organ. In my case, it didn't. But stage 3 always overwrites stage 2. So if it goes to a lymph node, it's automatically considered a stage 3. Generally, with all stage 3 cancers, the medical community recommends, after you take out the cancer and the lymph nodes, you do what's called adjuvant chemotherapy, which is chemotherapy in an attempt to kill potential cancer other places that may have spread to the body, that its spread is evidenced by it spreading to a lymph node. But you don't know if it is because it might be only 1 or 2 cells out there. And so it's not really, there's no real way to detect it or have any symptoms of it. And this chemotherapy cannot be localized by nature because you're not trying to kill cancer at a specific location. You're trying to, just in case cancer spread to anywhere potentially in the body, which for colon cancer is likely places like the lungs, the liver, and bones. So when I was in my hospital bed after the surgery, the next day, the surgeon called me up and mentioned chemotherapy. He's like, we're going to refer you to oncology. They're going to talk to you about chemotherapy. And when I heard that on the phone, I was like, are you kidding me? Screw you, was my answer, was my thinking. I didn't literally say that back to him on the phone because he was just a surgeon. But that's what I thought in my head. Chemotherapy is absolutely the worst thing you could ever do to yourself, ever. You should just don't ever do that, right? How chemotherapy agents work is they disrupt the process of DNA copying and cause it so that when a cell copies its DNA in its attempt to perform mitosis, it's an exceptionally large amount of errors. As a result, it tends to kill cells that copy. So it doesn't kill you. It can't be 100% effective. So sometimes it does kill you. It does things like cause birth defects because it causes errors in your sperm DNA because when your germ cells divide, right? And can do that up to 3 years after you finish your course of chemotherapy. And probably actually infinitum. It's probably like an exponential decay. Well, that's crazy. As well as cause secondary cancers like leukemia, although the rate of that for the particular agents they went to give me is rather low. And one of them loosens the blood-brain barrier. There's this oh dear. So this is what they recommend I did, is do a 3-month course where I would get intravenous oxaliplatin and oral that breaks down into the chemical equivalent of fluorouracil as adjuvant. And what this would do is it would decrease the probability that I would get metastatic cancer, they didn't know if there was metastatic cancer or not, by 30% from what it would be baseline. Now, I believe for the baseline for T3N1A, after 5 years, there's a 75% chance of disease-free survival, and asymptotically, that would be infinity, about 60% chance. That would go up to 83% chances after 5 years or about 80% asymptotically if I were to do the chemo. But you have to accept the side effects of the chemo in return, which would give you which there is possibility of permanence if you do get damage to your brain or your heart, and permanent nerve damage in your hands and feet, mostly. The chances of noticeable, measurable damage to your heart or brain are really, really low, but that's only noticeable and measurable and able to get into the data in the studies. I decided not to do that for whatever reason I had, which does put me at, I presume, like a 1 out of 4 chance of getting stage 4 cancer and essentially dying from it in the next 5 years or so. For some reason, I somehow believe that I will not die. I can't imagine it, but it's statistically plausible. The oncology thing was kind of frustrating though, because the first oncologist I talked to wasn't able to break down those probabilities into for separate subcategories of cancer. And I had to go to a second oncologist to get that. But they all recommended I do chemotherapy. But anyway, that's what happened to me. If you're curious, I got stage 3 colon cancer. So now you know. I guess some takeaways you can have is, if you get sort of I am someone in my late 20s, and I still got colon cancer, which is conventionally a disease that people in their 50s and older is known to be not a young person's disease. And this is why my primary care physician at the start was just thinking maybe I had a GERD. It didn't really cross his mind cancer, because I was just too young, seemingly, to get colon cancer. But I was not. And these kind of stomach aches every day, they're a little bit more intense or sharp or more crampy in nature than a typical gas stomach ache. As well as is an earlier symptom that you will have colon cancer, that you might want to, that if you're one of the 2 people that will watch this video, and one of the only 1 person that will watch this video too far, that might be something useful if you whatever, you happen to get colon cancer. I don't know. Obviously, for pooping blood, that's also a symptom, but by then, you probably would, that's something that people would probably recognize. After this episode with this cancer, for some reason I don't know, in ways that seem almost unrelated to the cancer, my mental health seems to be massively deteriorated. And you might notice this, you might not, in some of the Let's Play footage I made really close after it, such as my You, Me, and Her Let's Play footage, and my AI the Somnium Files, the Nirvana Initiative footage. That was recorded very closely after this cancer incident happened. And so if I don't seem really all there in that footage, that's why. And I still haven't fully come back yet. I'm having a hard time doing my hobbies. It's weird. My discipline, it's just, everything's just kind of falling apart. I don't know why. But I'll try to claw my way back to normal again and go from there. So that's it for the news. If you listen to all that, thank you for listening to it. I'll probably skip my Bionicle Games review that I was planning most recently at the Odds and Ends. Do a more concerted practice sessions on Bionicle Addict Media where I'm not talking at the same time. And then yeah. Thanks. Bye-bye.